Hello everyone, and welcome to another review presented by TBR Media. Today we are going to be reviewing the Zellner brothers' latest film, Sasquatch Sunset. As stated, this is directed by David and Nathan Zellner, who previously worked on titles such as Kamiko the Treasure Hunter Damsel and Plastic Utopia, and more recently, The Curse. Sasquatch Sunset is a year in the life of a unique family. It captures the daily life of the Sasquatch with a level of detail and rigor that is simply unforgettable. And if you've watched the trailers, you kind of know what you're going to be getting with this film, to be honest with you. There's not much in terms of script that's there. Obviously, the performances from Jesse Eisenberg, Riley Keough, and one of the Zellner brothers himself, not necessarily focused on entirely what's happening around these Sasquatches, but you get this sense that the Zellner brothers, with the direction here, really wanted to hone in on the more absurd nature of what we would categorize as being human and the human condition overall, and that's what you get. The brothers try and tempt you to laugh and to have fun at the absurdity of these creatures kind of wandering through this forest. But that's as far as it goes. Sasquatch Sunset is relatively uneventful, and it kind of brings the question to the forefront that many of us ask ourselves all the time, especially as we sit down to review films like this. What is cinema supposed to be? What does it strive for? And is there inherently a purpose in the films that we're making? And I think you can attribute purpose to a lot of different films that don't necessarily have purpose. This being one of them, though I do think that it is mainly centralized around the concept of the human condition and how we review and respond to our surroundings and the people around us. I think you can attribute that quality to this film, certainly, but I also think that it's just supposed to be a film where we have a little bit of fun, have a little bit of an adventure. It's supposed to feel otherworldly because we're looking at a group of what's presumably a family of Sasquatches, but inherently there's a disconnect there, as it doesn't feel familiar to us being a Sasquatch, but some of the familial hierarchy is inherently familiar, and so it kind of leaves you in this weird void of being close to this group of Sasquatches and also not at all. Like, we're just observing these creatures go about a year in their life, from, spring and winter all the way to summer and fall, and we get the sense that they are closely bonded, though that does spark some tension with the family, and that tension, I think, had a lot of humor in it, and I think the Zellner brothers perfectly executed some of the kind of situations where you spend so much time with someone in your family and they annoy the fuck out of you. And so there is some really good comedy, and it's mostly, slapstick comedy here, that is really fun to watch and really fun to engage with. But being on the outside of everything that's kind of occurring with this family unit, there is a sense of a disconnect, right? Like, yes, we're supposed to be exploring the human condition and learning with this family here how to navigate this world, which feels alien and not alien at the same time. But outside of that, there isn't much going on in Sasquatch Sunset, and that's going to leave a lot of people kind of uninterested in sitting down for an hour and a half and going on this journey with this family. There is a gross out factor that goes along with this film that I feel like was pretty light overall comparatively. But again, this is someone who has seen way more gratuitous things on screen than what's presented here in Sasquatch Sunset. And so I feel like maybe the gross out factor for me wasn't inherently, tangible as much as it would be for someone else who isn't kind of expecting these things to happen. But at the same time, I feel like there are a few moments that are definitely going to gross you out. And that's just kind of what you can come to expect with Sasquatch Sunset and the Zellner brothers in general. So ultimately, I would say temper your expectations if you're going to see Sasquatch Sunset. It's probably not going to give you any feasible kind of in as far as, really resonating with what's happening on screen, but it is fascinating to watch. and I couldn't necessarily take my eyes off the screen, and waiting in anticipation for what was ultimately going to happen with this family, I feel like did work, but there isn't much under the surface, and I kept asking myself, is there more? There's gotta be more, right? And unfortunately, there isn't more here. This is simply just a day in the life kind of movie. It's a slice of life. Doesn't quite come together in any satisfying way, I don't think. And I forgot to mention that the actual makeup and hairstyling, the costuming, everything was perfection, in my opinion. I think they did a really good job at showcasing the facial expressions of the actors and their performances, but it didn't feel over the top and it didn't feel unnecessary at all. I think it felt natural to the environment, and that was another aspect of this film that I thought worked really, really well. But I think if you're going into a movie and you just kind of want to experience something a little bit different, something maybe a little bit fresh, this is definitely going to be up your alley. You may not come out loving it. I certainly didn't come out loving it. It's not going to be anywhere near my favorites of 2024. But I'm glad I watched it just to say I watched it. And so that's what you can expect with Sasquatch Sunset from the Zellner brothers. Let me know what you think of Sasquatch Sunset down in the comments below, and we will see you in the next review.